Hugh Duncan joins us as a guest on Uplift, chatting about his new album, where the proceeds raised go to the Alma Mater Fund. The Alma Mater Fund provides financial grants to pregnant students facing difficulties at universities in Scotland and Northern Ireland, in order to support them in pursuing their academic and professional goals. Thank you, Hugh, for joining me in studio today. It's been a pleasure so far connecting with you. Can you share what inspired you to create music for the Alma Mater Fund?
Okay, well, near where I live, there is a cave called Sandbourne, which is claimed to be the place where Mary Magdalene went to after she was chased out of the Promised Land. The French have a lot of faith in this folklore story. And it was about 9 years ago I heard about the place and became fascinated. It's only about an hour and a half from where I live, so I visited it. And a very mystical, spiritual place, I must admit. I was very moved by it. They've built a chapel inside the cave. And I found out that on a wall inside the cave, there's plaques that have been put up by mothers who have lost a child in childbirth and various situations like that, stillbirth, cot death, what have you, regretted abortion. And I found out that Mary Magdalene is a patron saint of mothers in this situation. So it made me think, well, perhaps there's some way that I can combine my love of music and also doing something to help these mothers in difficulty. There's a place down here in Toulon called Les Maisons Bethlehem, where the local bishop set it up about 18 years ago, I think, and it's a house for single mothers in difficulty. They're escaping abusive relationships or whatever, or have had one of these kind of traumatic experiences, and it gives them the chance to find a safer place, perhaps retrain in a skill for a job or whatever. So I've been in touch with them as well. And so since that, if you like, and then I found out, obviously, not that long ago, at the beginning of the year, I think, that there was this Alma Mater Fund in Scotland helping mothers who don't want to have to choose between being a mother and their studies.
And where did you learn about Alma Mater Fund? Where did you hear about it?
It was from some information supplied by Spuck. That's where I heard about it. To me, it seems that it's one of those areas where perhaps the pro-life and the pro-choice people can agree. There's an overlap in this feeling to help these mothers who want to be able to study, but also want to keep their child. And so it seemed to be a good starting point for doing something to help them.
Exactly. And how did yourself? I know you have Penny and Rick as well on your team to sing and produce content as well. So how did you connect with those two?
Okay, Rick Preston used to be the guitar teacher at the International School of Nice, which is where I taught for the last 30 years. I retired last year, and Penny's been a music teacher there for I think about a decade now. I can't remember. I've been making music with Rick since he left the school about 5 years ago. He lives somewhere near Lyon, but we've kept in touch via the internet, recording my own songs. I'm actually a punk singer and writer by my hobby, if you like, but I do have these other ideas which don't quite suit my voice, my style of music. So Rick has been taking my songs and doing the backing music. I've been recording my voice. We do it all over the internet, and then he puts them together, and we've made about 7 albums of this kind of music together in the last few years. Then, as I say, I studied. It was about 5 years ago. I got inspired to write songs about the life of Mary Magdalene, having visited the cave, and it was going to originally be a musical, a bit of an extravagant idea. Going from her time mentioned in the Bible to this life she may have had in the cave. I cut the project in half because it was just such a big one to do. I was still teaching. And so I just did it about the mentions of Mary Magdalene in the Bible, starting with the unknown sinner. And the song that opens the album just asks the question, is this just an unknown sinner, or is it Mary Magdalene? And so I started writing these songs over the last few years. When I write songs, I have my acoustic guitar and I sing a bit like Bob Dylan when I do that. And then Rick made the backing tracks for each of the songs. I then sang them, but I realized that it didn't suit my voice, as the songs are coming from the point of view of this very important woman in the Bible. So I approached Penny, who was, I say, the music teacher at the school, and she was interested in helping with this project. And so it would have been done quicker if there wasn't the lockdown and COVID, which went on for the last few years. And trying to teach under those conditions is also been very time consuming. I started writing the lyrics. I used to go for walks, sort of contemplative, meditative walks around the countryside where I live here. And the songs would come to me, the words. That I say the songs are based on mentions in the Bible, plus a few which are related to a visionary called Anne Catherine Emmerich. You might have heard of her. She was a 19th century German nun, bedridden, and she used to have visions of things that were not directly mentioned in the Bible. But years later, some of the things she said were actually found to have occurred. And she had some things she saw about Mary Magdalene. And one of them was when Mary Magdalene was asking Jesus, how can I be a better person? And he said, talk to my mum, basically. And that gave me the inspiration for a song called Talking to Mary. So these were going on over the last few years, fitting in with the teaching, which is a full-time occupation. And then the lockdown hit, and that really slowed everything down dramatically, trying to teach from the house through a screen to 20 odd kids, especially I'm a science teacher, trying to do experiments that way, and Penny being a music teacher, obviously that was a challenge to try and get that done. Working from a distance, it's worked very well, I think, considering. I thought it might have been more difficult, but Rick, as I say, excellent musician. We worked together many years ago on some charity albums like this, and we seem to have got on very well together, and so he seemed to know what to do, even if I couldn't play it on the guitar. I'm not an outstanding musician, 3 chords, 3 notes to sing as a punk, and I would say, can you make something like this, or he would say, what about that? And it sort of came together. This has a kind of country feel to it, the album. Penny has admitted that she's not traditionally a country styled singer, but she was able to sing in that style and has done an excellent job. She did all the vocal arrangements while Rick did all the instruments. She did the vocal arrangements, the backing vocals of herself. It's her voice in all the voices that you hear, and then he brought them all together and then added the extra bits to the basic tune he sent her. So I say that ended up went a lot more smoothly than I expected. It's worked very well. Say we live some distance apart from each other, so it's been nice to have been able to succeed in spite of the distance.
It's amazing, and you're in France and everything. In terms then of composition, what is your favourite song from the album that you've produced?
Oh gosh.
If you could pick one.
I think I can blow my own horn in this sense because it's not me singing and not me playing, but obviously I wrote the words and the basic tune. That they've added bits and pieces and augmented it, and they've done an excellent job. Turn these sort of raggedy things, rough and ready songs, into something which sounds really nice. I suppose the Talking to Mary was the first one I'd done, and I finished and that has a certain place in my heart, because I think each of us has gone through our own difficulties, and it was something that actually started about myself when I was composing the song about talking to Mary, and I imagined the same thing for Mary Magdalene from that. So that one has a very strong piece of passion for me, if you like. The other one is the song that actually follows. I think it's called Here Is the Album, in old-fashioned CD style, but it's called Walking with Jesus. And that was an interesting one for me, because I researched the bit that follows in the Bible after the unknown sinner talks about the women that went round with Jesus in his mission. And it only mentions a few, Mary Magdalene being the one mentioned there. But reading Anne Catherine Emmerich and various other sources, I found out there were many, many other women that were part of the mission. And it maybe obviously at the time there that women weren't given such an importance, they weren't mentioned. But Jesus did seem to treat them with the same level of respect and importance. And so I composed that song about all the women that went around with Jesus, listing various names. And the song's very upbeat. It's a bit more rock and rolly, I suppose, in its style. And so that the way that the names get mentioned and introduced, you start to realise that there was quite a crowd of women involved in the very early church.
Exactly. And how do you nurture your own creativity then in terms of songwriting? How do you do that?
Obviously, I've plagiarized heavily from the Bible itself, taking these stories and turning them into my own interpretation, that they rhyme and that they have the meat to fit in. So I'm hoping that works well. It sounds fine to me, and the people who've given me feedback say that. I've been writing songs for 50 years or so, from my mid-teens onwards, and I say a lot of them have been very emotionalist in terms of protest songs during the punk era and the Cold War periods, and the governments that weren't doing things right, and so I find myself writing all the time. It's one of my favorite pastimes, writing poems, stories, and songs, and so I get it from those experiences, if you like, that I feel myself, that I can perhaps relate to, empathize with. I don't consider myself an outstanding writer. I failed my O-level when I was at school. Hopefully I've improved since then. But yes, it's those kind of things that have sort of shaped my my writing.
And in your performing then, who have you performed with?
As I said, I've been more of a punk myself. I play the guitar, 3 chords, and I sing and shout. And I've had in the past a handful of proper musicians, if you like, backing me up. In recent years, I've just relied on Rick's backing tracks, and I've been singing live with the recorded backing track, a bit like my own karaoke. And so I've done that at school when I was there, and also for local gigs, and even planned some in England, hopefully in the autumn. So that's what I've done. I say I don't consider myself a strong singer or a strong player. I perhaps more I'm a songwriter, and I've had, in fact, some of my students have sung my songs, and they've done some excellent jobs. They've got lovely voices, and they've been able to carry the songs much better than I could, make them sound very nice.
So what is next then for you, Penny and Rick? Have you another album up your sleeve, or
well,
next in the cards?
A short while ago, Radio Maria England did talk to myself and Penny, and both Penny and the DJ were pushing for make it a musical, this Mary Magdalene thing. It'd be nice to think it could be. the project is still going on. As I say, what I've done is I've gone to my mother's local parish church in southeast London, and the priest allowed me to sell the albums at the end of each mass, and that was a pilot project to get some money going, if you like, to fund Alma Mater in Scotland. I thought anything I do in England can go to the Scottish one, and anything I do in France can go to the French one here. So I'm hoping to do the same in my local parish church here now that I'm back in France. Penny and again, she thinks bigger than me. I should actually get the production of the albums done in a more efficient way. It's me. Literally, I do them by hand. I write on each one by hand myself, so they're each sort of slightly different, and print them myself and burn them myself. Not everyone uses CD. I have tried to get some MP3 going, but I've yet to do the best thing like they do in Amazon and have a website where people can order it straight off, because all the profit from all this music goes to some charity, and in this case, this album to these single mothers in difficulty. And so it's important to try and get a most efficient way of getting the funds there, and not waste any on the actual materials itself. So if there's anyone listening who is willing to take on that side of things, I'm not very good at that, I'm afraid, that I'm happy to hear from them, so that we can get these funds when they're needed.
Great. Yeah, well, it's a brilliant project that you have anyway. It's a brilliant album.
Thank you.
So thank you, Hugh, for all the work that you do.
No, well, thank you for featuring it. As say, it's trying to do something useful with this, and hopefully at the same time have this souvenir album, which will perhaps get people thinking as well of the messages in the songs.
Yeah, exactly. There's one more question I just want to ask. So, Hugh, what would you say to other songwriters out there who maybe are feeling shy to kind of write about pro-life topics or songs? What would you say to them? And maybe some of them aren't even religious. Maybe they just have a desire, but they don't know where to start.
Yes, it's a fine line to tread, because some people can be alienated by the pro-life point of view, as we've seen, and similarly those who are from the other side of the fence, so to speak, may also feel some kind of defensiveness themselves about their own opinions. And I say I deliberately chose this particular project because I felt that both sides should agree. I guess in the end you've got to go to what your heart is telling you, in terms of if you feel strongly enough about something, that to use your skills, your talents, or whatever, to do something about that. There are some people who like to protect the animals, some the starving, and so and like the starving, for example. It'd be nice to save every single one of these starving people. In reality, that can't happen. I wish it could. Similarly, here's a place where we can actually do something to save the mother and the child in this particular situation, and give them also the chance for their studies in the case of the Alma Mater Fund, and in France, perhaps to learn a new skill and to escape from an unfortunate relationship. So if people do have some strong feelings like that, if they have some kind of influence or an audience they might be able to appeal to, get them thinking at least. There are some areas where everyone would agree with. There are areas where people don't, of course, but at least we can do something to improve the situation.
Great. Well, thanks again for joining me today on Uplift. Hugh, you're a pleasure to talk with, and thanks again for all the hard work that you do, especially raising funds for Alma Mater Fund. So yeah, I hope you have a good day, and hopefully chat to you soon. Thank you.
And thank you to Catherine for letting me be here.
Thanks everyone for joining us today on Uplift. Tune in again next week where we'll have more influential guests joining us.